by yumpin' yiminy yuns, as we say in Pittsburgh. Yuns got to spend some money and support this group. Because if you don't finance those young people, and if you don't keep this organization on its feet, who's going to do it? You want African-American groups to do it? Chinese American? Who did it for them? Did you do it for them? Did you help them? One hand does not clap. Anyway, back to the subject. Newsweek magazine. You know, I loved watching Fareed Zakaria. You ever watch Fareed Zakaria on CNN? He looks so good, you know, almost like a Hollywood movie star. You know? Anyway, again, why the cover of Newsweek? Radical Islam is a fact of life. Learn to live with it. I mean, come on, why? Not only is the story damaging, but notice how Mr. Liberal, it's not just Fox News, it ends his article. Ready? The truth is that all Islamists, we're talking about 1.4 billion people, violent or not, lack answers to the problems of the modern world. I guess Mr. Zakaria interviewed 1.4 billion people, and not one of them could tell them what was going on in the modern world. He continues, they do not have a worldview that can satisfy the aspirations of modern men and women. Did you know that? And finally, he says, we do, meaning the rest of us. We do. That's the most powerful weapon of all. How sad that a man of Zachariah's intelligence and sensitivity could say this about 1.4 billion people. We have a lot of work to do. I've spent my life looking at television shows and movies, more than 1,000 films, hundreds of TV shows, documenting the vilification of all things Arab and all things Islam. And I want you to know there's hope for the future. When I started this back in the mid-'70s, I was a single solitary figure. There was no ADC, there was no CAIR, there was no MPAC, there was no ING. There was this young guy, you know, without gray hair, in the Midwest, writing an article called The TV Arab. I wrote that article in 1975. And this is for all the young people here. It took 3 years before I could get it published. Maybe 60 rejection letters. And I never forget one of the best rejection letters of all. I carry it with me all the time. You ready? Dear Professor Shaheen, he said, we would like to publish it, but we're obliged to publish. If we did, we would have to publish pieces probably not as good as yours. Signed, Harriet Van Horn, editor of the Television Quarterly. Anyway, I never encountered any discrimination when I was growing up. I have Lebanese roots. As most of you know, I'm a Christian, not a Muslim. People think I'm a little weird for defending Islam or talking about Islam or caring about Muslims. And I say, well, what's a religious man supposed to do? Just care about his or her own faith? Is that our role? My buddy Walt comes up to me and says, Jack, when are those Muslims going to get their act together? I said, when the Christians do. I mean, anyway, back to motivating. So it took, I really worked hard on this speech. You know, I came back I came in from South Carolina last night. Took me about 12 hours door to door. I staggered into his hotel. I couldn't sleep. Khaldoon, he takes me out. I said, I want something to eat, Afghan food. I said, I want something light. Oh, but we were told you like Afghani food. I said, okay, we'll go to the Afghani restaurant. Of course we go, what do we get? You know, it's enough for 18 people. Anyway, so I was on the fast track for being promoted at the university. I was into public broadcasting. I was into children's television. I was sort of like the guy at SIU. And then I started looking at Arab images, and things changed. All of a sudden, my research proposals were rejected. All of a sudden, they tagged me the Arab professor. I mean, that hurt. That hurt a lot. But in a way, it prompted me to do the work that I've been able to do with God's help today. I'd never encountered anything like it. I didn't understand it. When I wrote the book, The TV Arab, it took 4 years to get it published. When I went to Los Angeles for the first time on my own to interview producers and writers, I felt like a Ku Klux Klan sort of meeting with Ku Klux Klan members, like I was a black meeting with the KKK. Greeted with hostility by 1/3 of the people that I encountered. Talked down to, humiliated, people turning down interviews. It was very, very difficult. We couldn't get the book published. Major publishers held it for a couple of years, refusing, in the end, finally, to publish the book. Now, with God's help, 5 books, 1 DVD, hundreds of essays, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What does it all mean? It means that if you have faith, and if you know there is injustice, you light a candle and you commit yourself to justice and fair play and decency, as my colleague, Professor Cole, has done, as members of this organization do each and every day they go to work. They are committed to helping young people, and you are committed to helping young people, because I can assure you, if you do not assist the up-and-coming generation of young Muslim scholars, the persecution and the attacks will grow, and you will constantly be on the defensive, trying to defend who you are and what you are, and that should not be the case. There's a wonderful song in South Pacific that goes like this: you've got to be taught, you've got to be carefully taught, you've got to be taught before it's too late, before you're 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. In this case, to hate all the people your media hate. You've got to be carefully taught. There is no television show, no movie, no news story that is morally neutral. Each message that is beamed into our minds impacts our beliefs to some extent. Taken together, these images have a cumulative effect. They teach us whom we should love, whom we should hate. Another Arab proverb: by repetition, even the donkey learns. That Arab proverb was picked up by Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, who said, in order for propaganda to be effective, you take a few select images of a people and you repeat them over and over again.